Good morning, guys. I am coming to you this week from Toledo Bend. Today we are in Pirates Cove, just outside of Manny, Louisiana. The water temperature is 73 degrees right now. We had a cold front move in last night, so we're hoping that these bass are fired up. They're moving shallow, they're feeding up, and we're gonna have some hot and heavy crankbait action. So we're gonna head back that way and see if we can't find the big girls.
The lake is roughly 70 miles long. It's 186,000 surface acres, 5th largest impoundment in the United States and the largest in the South. The north end of the lake, the very north end of the lake, the fish seem to relate more toward wood cover. The south end, they relate more toward grass. We do have some other species in here that are very, very popular. Locally, they call them sac-a-lait. Most people know them as white perch or white crappie. And of course, the catfish grow as big as your boat. So the fishing on Toledo Bend is not just black bass, although it's the #1 black bass lake in the country right now.
That bald eagle right there. So far, no real pattern has presented itself. I found bait wadded up on the edge, so the fish could be, somewhat pelagic and running the channel edges. And so if we don't find them staging on the flats or the wood, then we'll just come back through and actually cast spinnerbaits and crankbaits right down the edge of the channel. And sometimes that ends up being your most productive pattern anyway. More often than not, though, you find schoolie fish doing that, and so you'll catch a lot of fish. You just won't catch big fish, and the big fish will be staging up on these flat points and toes and rises.
My grandfather was an angler, my father was not. And so I actually grew up riding in the boat with my grandfather. When he retired to come fishing every week at Toledo. So considering my age, I have many decades on this lake.
It's a big ass heron right there.
There is a hole straight off my bow. I'm gonna paddle over it and check it. Make sure it wasn't just an anomaly on my sonar, where we were in like 8 feet of water and it dropped off to like 15 feet. And go over there and take a look at that again.
The fish are not active, so they're not gonna chase something down. They're not gonna run it down, but they're opportunistic feeders. So if you put it in their face and you let it sit there, and even if it's moving slow and they've got to just, cover a little bit of water to pick it up, they're going to.
Fish on.
There you go.
Come here, come here. All right, Chad, I took a little bit of your recommendation, and I went to, seeing that the fish are not in a feeding mode, I went to a finesse spinning rod with a little 2/0 worm hook, tiny little slip sinker, and a small baby brush hog. And that was the first cast, by the way. Hammered it.
Well, at least somebody's catching fish. Maybe I need to be using a beak. That is crazy. That's some ninja stuff right there.
In this modern day and age, with kayaks with anchor trolleys and micro power poles, which I do love, sometimes it's just real easy to come up and clip onto a piece of exposed stump with nothing more complicated than a metal brush hook and a few feet of parachute cord.
And that's this week's Adam Harbuck Low Tech, No Tech Tip of the Week.
That's another fish. Whoa, bigger fish, bigger fish. Oh, this is a nice fish. There we go. Get that thing all the way down in there.
The water's cold. I've thrown that crankbait and not even got a sniff. I've thrown this flapping hog about 4 times and caught 2 fish. That's a little better fish. Definitely not the giants Toledo Bend's known for, but
weightless. How about confidence baits? We all have them. For me, the ultimate confidence bait is a specific color of War Eagle spinnerbait, a gold rattle trap. This is a perfect example of, get that, there we go, of a confidence bait. I'm just gonna hold the fish in the water. This is a gold rattle trap, and it's one of those baits that when it just gets tough or it's at the end of a long day and you want to pick up a few extra fish, put on a confidence bait. And I don't know if it's any better or if it's because of your confidence in it, you work it more thoroughly or more efficiently, but I put on a confidence bait, caught a fish. A little school bass, but you can throw a gold rattle trap a long way, even in the wind, and after all, we're here. The tug is a drug. I'm not a trophy hunter. He's gone. He'll be a fresh one.
So what I'm doing is I've got my power pole down and I'm drifting up on this rise. And, you know, basically these edges or these flats are, you know, what used to be wooded, and the creek is part of what was here before the lake was made. You just got to find where these fish are staging in these creek channels. I'm finding tons of bait, big wads of it. And sometimes they're getting busted up by schoolie fish, but what we're trying to find is those big females that have moved back, that are exhibiting, you know, this staging feed up mentality, getting ready for the winter, a lot like they do when they're getting ready for the spawn. It's an exciting time of the year because for the most part, you know, a lot of folks have switched to football or hunting or getting ready for duck season, and you can almost have the lake to yourself. So I'm super pumped to try to find one of these big females just laid up on one of these corners and grind one of these crankbaits past her face. So what we're doing right now is working our way back down this creek. This creek works its way back pretty far, and there's a bend in the creek right here to my left that comes around and then goes back behind me, and there's a hump out here that is probably 3 foot with 6 foot on both sides. I call them toes. It looks like a long, you know, like a big toe. It's skinny in the front and fatter in the back, and bass generally kind of orient to one side or another of that, and so I'm just kind of raking that toe tip with this crankbait and seeing if I can't find fish. So now we're in 12, bait everywhere. I'll come out here and throw a lizard in a little while if they're not shallow.
A backlash, a professional overrun?
Yeah, it's real.
A backlash so big that you have to just take the reel out of the spool and toss it in a bonfire. A backlash that virtually ruins your day. I didn't know those things still happened.
The good news is there's a fish right here that's going to get caught as soon as I get it undone. So just throwing the crankbait through here and hooked a bunch of fishing line. So if you come across fishing line, make sure you pull it in your boat. I always stash it in my little center console and then throw it out when I get back, or put it in one of the little recycling tubes. But if it's something that you haven't thought about, you know, that you've been one of those people that's guilty of it, pull your line in. It's kind of a Richard move. So if you lose some fishing line, make a little bit of an attempt to retrieve it, or a lot of an attempt to retrieve it, to recover as much as you can. And just don't be a Richard.
What did you call me?